Hi there, Sev here from Motorhome Dealer Group, and welcome to this video guide on the Dometic RMD 10.5 series of three-way fridge freezer. In this video guide, I'm going to do my best to explain how to operate the fridge freezer so that you're going to feel comfortable using this in your leisure vehicle. Now, in this video today, we're not going to be covering the battery pack powered standalone gas mode, and we're also not going to be covering any troubleshooting or problem solving. If you are experiencing issues with your fridge freezer, please consult the manuals or seek the help of a technical professional. This video really is aimed at being a quick start video guide just to get you up and running using this model of fridge freezer in your leisure vehicle. So let's get started. So like all three-way fridge freezers, this unit can use 3 different energy sources. So that's mains 230 volt electricity. We also have gas and 12 volt power as well. Now, obviously you need to make sure that whichever energy source you would like to use to power your fridge freezer is available and present and working elsewhere in the van before you try the fridge freezer. Otherwise, of course, it might not work. Now, it's also worth explaining that the 12 volt mode of operation on this unit is not the same as you might find in, let's say, a two-way or compressor fridge freezer that runs entirely on 12 volt. The 12 volt mode on a fridge like this is really just intended to keep the temperature in the fridge maintained whilst you're on the road. The power source essentially is coming from the engine's alternator, so the engine itself when the engine is running, and it's intended to keep the temperature maintained. It's not really powerful enough to actually chill the fridge down, so you do need to use either gas or mains electric in order to get your fridge cold. But the 12 volt mode, as I said, will keep your temperature maintained whilst you're driving from A to B. So let's now run through the operation of the fridge freezer. So you'll see in the center of the panel, essentially we have this rotary encoder here that does have a push button function as well. And there's a small screen to the left, which you can't see at the moment because the unit is turned off. So let's turn the fridge on. We do so just by pressing and holding the button for a couple of seconds, and we should see it start up and come to life. And then we're greeted with a screen like this. So the information we have on the screen currently is at the top, we essentially have 3 rows of information. The top row here is showing us our current cooling level. Below that, we then have the current energy selection, which energy source is powering the fridge freezer. And then below that, we have what settings are enabled. So in order to interact with the unit and change anything on this screen, we're going to need to use the rotary encoder. Now, simply turning it will just brighten the screen slightly. We need to press the button, and you can now see that we've essentially highlighted or separated off the top line. The others are grayed out. We can then use the rotary encoder to cycle through which items we would like to change. So if I wanted to change the cooling level, I would click here, and now I can change the cooling level to my preference, click, and that is now set, as you can see. Let's say we wanted to change the energy source. We would click, we would move the rotary encoder down to highlight the energy source row, click, and now we can change the energy source here to our preference, or we could use the back button to go back out of that menu. And likewise, the settings we can change by going down here, clicking, and then we have the various settings we can enable, again, including a back button. So that's how we change the different settings. So let's now talk about the energy sources, and then I will explain what each of those settings do. So to change the energy source, we're simply going to press the rotary encoder in, and then we're going to highlight the middle row where we see the energy source there. Click, and now we can change the options. You can see we have auto, we have engine 12 volt power, we have the gas and mains electric, and a back button. So whichever selection we make here, we will then need to exit out of the menu using the back button afterwards. You'll see that in just a second. So let's now choose the battery for engine 12 volt mode, as if I was going to go driving, for example. So I click the rotary encoder in after selecting that, move down to the back button to then be able to leave the menu. Now we have an error, and this is because the engine isn't on. And of course, as mentioned earlier, it's the engine that's providing essentially the 12 volt power for this mode of operation to maintain cooling when on the road. Without the engine on, we're going to get this error. Okay, so next up, we can change that. Let's go to gas. So I highlighted the gas there. Let's exit out. And now you can see the gas is enabled, and it's an automatic ignition. Now, the unit will attempt a few gas ignitions in a row, but if it fails to ignite, either because there's maybe a bit of air in the lines, you've just changed gas bottles or something like that, what will happen is a fault will occur or an error will occur. And it will look just like we saw with the engine 12-volt operation error we saw a moment ago, where we have the red band. But rather than the battery symbol being displayed, it would of course be the gas symbol and a subsequent error code. Now, after a failed gas ignition, the unit will essentially lock you out. It's called a gas lockout, meaning that you need to reset the error in order to return to normal operation and essentially try a gas ignition again. So in order to reset that gas lockout error, all you need to do is press the control knob here for a couple of seconds. You should hear a beep and that will reset the error. And hopefully, obviously, your gas will then ignite. So that's how you resolve a gas lockout situation. Let's now change to the mains electric plug, which is here. So that's now running on mains electric hookup supply. And then we have the auto mode, which of course is here. And on the automatic mode, it's going to choose the most suitable energy source that's available. In this instance, it's of course chosen mains electric. It prioritizes mains electric first if that's present. If the mains electric isn't present, it will then attempt to run from the engine 12-volt supply. And if that is not present, then it will attempt to light on gas. So that's how it prioritizes the orders. Now, there is something known as tank stop mode on this particular unit, which essentially prevents all gas operation for 15 minutes. Now, the tank stop mode is essentially engaged when the vehicle's ignition is switched off. This is so that essentially if you were in a petrol station, the unit is giving you a 15-minute window in order to fill up without any risk of a fridge ignition causing obviously potential problems in a petrol station. So that is what that is doing. And then after 15 minutes, the fridge should return back to normal automatic operation. You'll know the fridge is in a tank stop mode because there will be a little petrol pump symbol displayed on the display here when it's in that 15-minute window. Now, of course, if you are going to be longer than 15 minutes in a petrol station for any reason, then I would recommend switching to an alternate mode on the fridge or just turning it off in order to prevent the fridge trying to ignite on gas at some point whilst you are still in the petrol station. So that's the energy sources. Let's now talk about the various settings that we have available, which we can select down the bottom here. The first option is the brightness. This chooses how bright or dim we want the display to be, so that's a pretty straightforward one. The next one is the audible beeps, and this here is essentially letting us choose whether or not sound beeps are on or off. Of course, enabled here is blue, so if I return back to the main menu, you can see here that the beeps are currently turned off. That means they're turned off. This means that error messages and warnings are not signaled acoustically, but the door left open for a period of time will still signal. And then if that is disabled, which should look like that, that's the sounds still, they are enabled now. The muting isn't available. It says here that error messages, warnings and door left open are all signaled acoustically as normal. So that's the tones there. We then have fan operation. Now the fan operation, essentially when switching on the device, the fan can come on for a short moment just as a sort of function test, but basically the inbuilt fan will turn on when ambient temperatures are above 32 degrees or when the desired cooling level is not actually attained within 2 hours, or if you manually turn on in the manner that we just have. And essentially the fan operation is just designed to help regulate the temperature of the unit, the sort of operating temperatures of the fridge unit itself to prevent it overheating. So like I say, it comes on automatically after, or if the temperatures are above 32 degrees, if the desired cooling level is not reached within 2 hours, or if you manually turn on as we have here. So that's what that does. And then next up we have the frame heater, which we can turn on there, and it will look like that at the bottom. The frame heater essentially is designed to be used in high ambient temperatures, and at high ambient temperatures, in combination with high levels of humidity, condensation can form in the ice compartment frame. And the frame is equipped with a frame heater, which is designed to reduce condensation on the frame of the ice compartment. And in some fridge units, it can also prevent condensation forming elsewhere inside the internals, which could, harm things like sensitive electronics or anything else in the unit as well, or even just cause corrosion over time. So the frame heater is switched on automatically and continuously if you're running on mains electric operation or on the engine 12-volt mode. But when you're on gas operation, if you want to use the frame heater because you think the conditions are calling for it, then you can turn it on manually in the manner that we have just done. So that is that there. That's the frame heater. And that is essentially it for the options. Now, one other thing you can see, just highlighted down here, you can see CI. If a technician has set the unit up, CI will be enabled because the fridge is talking on the CI bus, and that's a way of this fridge communicating with other hardware you might find in leisure vehicles, such as control panels and things, to allow remote operation or things like that. Not enabled on this particular unit. And then down the bottom here, we can see the battery pack symbol. That is if we're using the standalone gas operation with the with battery packs installed. Again, something that is not enabled on this unit, and also, as mentioned earlier, not covered in this video guide. Turning off the unit is quite simple. We just press and hold the rotary dial in for several seconds till it beeps and shuts down. And as you saw before, turning it on is as simple as just pressing for a couple of seconds as well, till we see it fire up. So that about wraps up this video guide on using the Dometic RMD 10.5 series of three-way fridge freezer. I hope you found this video useful. I'm Sev, and thank you very much for watching.